Hello and welcome back to Roll On Gaming. That's right, no theme music this time because we're getting right into it. We finally got the news that we were hoping to get from Fantasy Flight Games about Star Wars Unlimited. But before we get into all that, I have to introduce my partner in crime, my brother, my co-host, Corwin. How are you today, Corwin?
I'm great, man. March 8th, 2024. Let's get it.
Yes, as Corwin takes all the wind out of my sails as per usual, we have a release date, March 8th of next year. It was widely speculated that March was going to be the time. We now have that confirmed via Fantasy Flight Games at Spiel, which is really exciting to hear. But not just March 8th, but also March 1st, because as we know, pre-releases are going to be happening for every set, including and especially for Set 1 Spark of Rebellion. Really exciting to not only have that weekend down, but the weekend before we'll know, when we're trying to request time off from work to go get some games in. I mean, I've already put in my requests. It's time to open some packs and play some games of Star Wars Unlimited. So we're not wasting any time, except for the fact that we have a lot of time still, because March is still 5 months away, and it pains me to say it, but it's true. But at least we know. At least we know, and I'm not complaining at all. I cannot wait for March 8th.
Yeah, man, it's March. It's not like it's September, October, November. I mean, it's early 2024, so we love that. I can't believe you've already taken time off, but obviously fits the bill for you, Kevin.
Yeah.
So let's roll that up. And yeah, definitely looking forward to the pre-release events too, happening a week before. Going to try to get to as many of those as I can, as we've discussed before. So yeah, man, 5 months to go, but it'll pass quick.
It'll
We got holidays, we got all sorts of things that'll help pass the time.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, we have the holidays, which is awesome, but it would be so much cooler to be able to celebrate the holidays with Star Wars Unlimited. But that's okay.
Next
Again,
year,
next
next
year,
year, 2024.
yeah, 2024 will be able to, because not only did we find out the release date of Star Wars Unlimited's first set, but we did get a cadence of releases from Spiel. There was a presentation about the game, and they also said that not only were we getting Spark of Rebellion in March, we were getting Set 2 in July, Set 3 in November, and then each set following would follow that same cadence of March, July, and November. So Set 3 for the holidays sounds pretty awesome. And then again, we're going to have a spring set, a summer set, and a fall/winter set. If that cadence continues to be something that we can count on, it's going to be awesome to just have that plan in place and have something to look forward to every 4 months.
Yeah, no question. And yeah, hopefully, I think the key is that it does actually hold up, and that the plan remains in place. We saw them try to do this with Destiny. It didn't work out so well. Hopefully, with no chunky dice in the boosters and things like that, we can actually see a little bit more consistency with the release schedule. But it's great to see them getting out in front of it and try to stick to a regular cadence. I think 3 sets a year, timing wise, this is going to work out really well. Especially having something available for the holiday season. So I think it's going to be great to see that unfold and get more and more cards in our hands, on a pretty frequent occasion here.
Yeah, 4 months is an interesting timeline to use, but it's a helpful timeline in the sense that after I go spend all this money on packs, I can now have 4 months to save. So I'm pretty happy about that. But that's not all the info we got at Spiel. It was actually turning out to be a wealth of information about Star Wars Unlimited, which was really cool to see. They did a presentation on the game, as I mentioned, and there was a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to hit on it. I want to give a quick shout out to the Golden Dice podcast, who have had their eyes and ears to the ground on this the whole weekend. They were the ones that sort of brought this to my attention, and by the transitive property, allowed us to share it with all of you. So thanks again to the Golden Dice podcast for keeping an eye out. And we're going to talk about some of it because it's really exciting to see. As they were giving this presentation, they mentioned that the weekly play kits are designed for 16 weeks of play, at least the weekly play season, which again sort of fits with that 4 month timeline. You're going to have weekly play taking up the entirety of each set, which the chance to get those promos all the way through set 1, and open those blind bags, pretty awesome for me. But they also talked about store showdowns and went into a little bit more detail on those. So those are going to be scheduled for a month after every release, except for Spark of Rebellion. That's going to be 2 months after that set releases, after set 1 releases. So our first Store Showdown season is going to come in May of 2024. Really cool to know that in advance, and also gives us 2 months to try to figure out what's going on with all these new cards, Corwin.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we'll have plenty of chance to do so. If weekly play is going to happen for 16 weeks and we're looking at a 2 month window after release to start the Store Showdown events, then that's 7, 8 weeks of weekly play we're going to get in our local communities. I think metas will start to form off of that. Maybe not, super widespread, but at least locally. And then these Store Showdowns will really put some decks on the map, I think. That's just kind of was how it went with Store Championships for Destiny. And I'm sure being as some of the first like formal events in the game's life, I do see there being some decks kind of put on blast there. So yeah, I think we're going to have a really good idea of what's strong by May, and certainly through May as we see what decks are coming out on top of these events.
Well, there's a couple caveats to that I want to mention, because one, you mentioned weekly play is sort of a way to figure out the metas and dip your toes into that a little bit, but it will be interesting to see how much of weekly play is comprised of constructed versus draft and sealed. I do think that people are going to be using their weekly events a lot to not only get to play with new stuff, but also flesh out their collections with sealed and draft. So I think that'll be really cool. So we'll see how much of that is constructed play. And then the other thing is that, as has been mentioned previously by FFG, the Store Showdowns are designed to be sort of a more casual environment. So there's one side that's like, well, go and play the decks that you like, not necessarily the decks that you think are good. But then one of the other things that they brought up in this presentation is the other side of that. And the other side of that is the exclusive promos that you get for going to the Store Showdown. Not only are you getting the participation prizes that we showed off last week, those were the cool art of Takedown, which was a brand new card that we hadn't seen, but they're also going to have exclusive promos for judges, top 8 finishers, top 4 finishers, and the champions of the Store Showdown. So if you want to go and you want to test out something that you think is good, or if you want to go and chase these cool promos without getting too crazy with the competitive environment, because again, no Galactic Championship tournament points are on the line in these Store Showdowns. But it does give those players a way to chase for the cards that are going to be, these unique treatments, even though they're not mechanically unique, and have a chance to get their hands on those while still maintaining sort of the fun, casual environment that they're hoping to achieve with the Store Showdowns. At least that seems to be the plan.
Yeah, and that's what I mean is that when you're incentivizing these events with prize structure like this and making the prizes exclusive to just those places, people are going to bring their best stuff. It might not be everybody, but people who really want those cards are going to bring their best stuff and try to take it down. So I do think that it is going to be sort of meta informing, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, no Galactic Championship points means I think there will be a good mix, and I think hopefully we see good turnout for these types of events, especially with top 8 prizes, that could potentially pay out, half the field depending on how many show up. So I think that's pretty good incentive for folks to come out and in addition to any other kind of random stuff that gets thrown in for participation and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, there is a booster box that's included for Store Showdown random prizing. They're designed to fit 32 people per kit, but conceivably if they have more people and they have another kit, that top 8 could go to top 16 or top whatever. I mean, we don't necessarily know that that's how the structure would allow it to work, but either way, yes, turnout would be awesome there. If you're getting 32, you're in great shape as a store, so that's going to be awesome. And then you're in a great shape as a player base because you're going to have a diversity of people bringing a diversity of decks to try and flesh out a little bit of the meta and not just be playing against the same thing over and over again, which is going to be really cool. That's not the only store event that was talked about. There was a store level event that is going to have tournament points on the line, which is really cool. The planetary qualifiers, they didn't give us a lot of detail on that, only to say that they were store level events and they were sort of the first step into the qualifying for the Galactic Championship. So again, having both of those things on tap, having your Store Showdowns where you can go and play casually, and then at the same store potentially having a way to go and try to earn tournament points to get a chance to be invited to the Galactic Championship. I think those two hand in hand, if that's happening in your area, is going to be a really cool way to get people out consistently to these stores and be playing the game.
Yeah, no question. And I think what I really like about this structure is just kind of the waterfall effect of it, where you've got basically an event for every type of player. It moving from a casual spectrum all the way up until the competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different entry points here, which I think is really important because people can sort of gauge what kind of experience they want as they attend these different events, especially the ones that are early on. And then if they do decide, oh, I think I want to step down and play more casually, great, week leads will fit that. Or vice versa, if they want to step up and try to compete a little bit more, you've got these planetary qualifiers, and I'm sure we'll see other like regional events and things like that coming in terms of announcements. So that I think is really the best part of this for me is just seeing that there are entry points for any type of player that wants any type of experience, and I just think that that's going to promote a really good culture, hopefully in the local game stores as they organize events for this game.
Absolutely, yeah, and look, the more chances you get for players to come out, the more you'll be rewarded by players coming out. So I think that's a great strategy by them. And again, if you talk about strategy, there was another sort of I wouldn't say a big surprise, but because of what we know about the design environment over there for Star Wars Unlimited, but something that was really interesting and captivating to see as a part of this presentation was that they've already begun initial design through set 7 of this game, and they've been concepting through set 9. So we don't even have set 1 yet. We only know the names for the first 3 sets. They're already working on sets 7, 8, and 9. I mean, we're still in the prequels and they're in the sequels, right? This is crazy.
Yeah, but also not super surprising considering they've been working on this game for 3 years. So I think, yeah, I mean, you've got to. I'm sure that you've got to test things in full, looking ahead to the future. As you're getting ready to release a game like this. And so, yeah, I mean, 7 sets in, it assumes that the game's going to have. I mean, that would be, if we go all the way to set 9, that's a 3-year life minimum. And then we'll see what else is on the way, because I'm sure that there will be more beyond that if we all think that this game will be as successful as we anticipate. So, yeah, obviously it's great to see them thinking ahead and kind of designing things, understanding what's coming down the pike. But for us, I mean, and for me anyway, Kevin, I'm very focused on set 1 and getting my feet wet here and figuring out exactly how all this is going to shake out. But it's definitely good to see them already having stuff in place for 2 years from now.
Absolutely. And you mentioned sort of that 3-year timeline. The last thing that they said that I found interesting was that they have a 5-year roadmap for this game at this time. That also includes additional product types. So right now we've got boosters and starters and pre-release kits. There's not to say that we can't get more things like the Destiny 2 player set coming in down the line, or there might be some faction themed expansions, or if there's content that comes out like the next season of Andor or the next season of Ahsoka, or another show that comes out for Star Wars, or another movie that comes out for Star Wars. There's nothing to say that they can't do a themed expansion or a themed box around those things. So again, having those things in mind is really cool to see that they're doing that already, so that it potentially it doesn't feel rushed when the time comes. And they've already put so much thought into things like the 2-player starter, making sure all that's accessible. I have to believe that the same is going to be true for any additional product items that they release to the public, because again, they've impressed at every turn, and I think this having these plans are just awesome for the life of the game.
The organization on paper is there, so now it's just about the execution, and we'll see how that shakes out when the time
Now,
comes.
now give me product. that's that's where we're at. But yes, we'll focus right now on set one. There's a long way to go between now and set nine. So we'll focus on set one because we did get some more juicy set one cards this weekend at Spiel
Yes.
and through some other means. So we'll start with Mace Windu. I mean, this.
Ooh.
Whoa. Let's talk about Mace here. This. He is the party crasher. He is a 7 cost ground unit that is both aggression and heroism. A legendary, by the way, for Mace Windu. So there you go. There's another legendary. Um, Mace Windu is a 5/7 Force Jedi Republic unit. And for that 7 cost price tag, you're getting that body with ambush. And when this unit attacks and defeats a unit, you can ready him. So, hello, Mace Windu.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Just
First of all, really cool to see a not a Galactic Empire or Rebellion unit in set one. So that's pretty cool. But also, this card's awesome.
yeah, it's really good. I'm a big fan of Mace for sure, and the thematic ability of his, where he can just like pick off these really small units or units that have very low HP remaining, is really great. I love how they did that. So definitely a big fan of this card. This party is definitely over, Kevin.
Well, so and here's the thing. Now we know that if they do make a Jango Fett, it's going to be less health than 5, so that Mace
Mhm.
can immediately
There you go.
lop his head
Yep,
off. Yeah, spoiler alert.
that would fit with the theme for
Yeah.
sure.
So Jango Fett 5 HP or less confirmed. No, I mean the card's great. The hyperspace version of it is awesome, which was showcased in the article in which this was revealed, which was an IGN article that came out this weekend. So yeah, really exciting. This is not a legendary you're going to be disappointed to pull in a pack, unless of course you're like me and only want to play villainy cards. That doesn't mean Mace is on the trade block though, because you know your boy's a collector, so we're gonna be excited to get this card no matter
Oh
what.
yeah, you'll be hunting that master set for sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I would pay 9 for this, but I would definitely pay 7. So there's at least that. So let's move on to another aggression card, but this time it's on my side of the street here. You've got a Fallen Lightsaber. This is an aggression villainy upgrade that is 3 costs. It's a for that 3 costs, you're getting a rare that gives you +3 attack and +3 HP, +3 power, I should say. You attach it to a non-vehicle unit, and if attached unit is a force unit, it gains on attack, deal 1 damage to each ground unit the defending player controls. So let's look at this without the ability, because I think we've only seen a couple of force units in the villainy aspect. There's Palpatine, there's Vader. That's the extent of it, right? So let's look at this as a 3 cost for a +3/+3. Where do you rate it on that front?
I think it's good. I think these upgrades that we've seen, I think they bring a lot for their cost. The other sabers we've seen, Vader's and Luke's. This one, there was I think there was a cheaper one too that we saw at some point. I'm forgetting the name of it now, but I feel like 3 for +3/+3, very fair, and can potentially be quite impactful for a character that's needing some health or needing a boost to its attack for the round. Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine as is, and then the added bonus cherry on top with the force unit ability really takes it to another level.
Yeah, so for Vader's and Luke Sabers, you're getting a 3/1 for 2. This you're getting a
Yep.
3/3 for 3. So again, if this card was strictly vanilla, I think it's pretty solid because you're getting that extra 2 HP as a bonus for your 1 extra resource. But then again, being able to spread out that damage, this is going to go really, really awesomely into a deck that takes advantage of your opponent having damaged units because, again, you're just going to be damaging everything. The other thing this is really good at is popping shields. So if shields get a little too crazy and your opponent has multiple shields out on the board, you can remove them with this ability as long as you're attaching to a force unit. So and also worth noting, on attack happens before you actually deal the damage from the attack. So
Yep.
really, really awesome secondary ability here if you're able to get this onto a force unit.
Yeah, I got to ask you though, Kevin, because this art, it's really making me wonder. Are we going to see Maul or Savage in aggression because of this?
I mean, if they're gonna go anywhere, they're gonna go in aggression. I'm holding out for a hero till the end of the night on this one, just because I don't want to get my hopes up for something that's not going to come in set one. My hopes are sky high as it is for the eventual Thrawn reveal, whatever that ends up being, thanks to the booster pack art. But yeah, I mean, I just think that if they were gonna do Maul, I think they would have done Maul's lightsaber. Considering this is not that, I'm a little more hesitant to lean my hopes into there being a Maul, but I'm gonna be really stoked when I'm wrong. And then there's
I mean, he
definitely
did make an appearance in Rebels,
he
and
did
we've seen some Rebels stuff coming out, so
he
it's
did he definitely also though in Rebels lean more into the well, not in Rebels, but in Clone Wars, lean more into the crime syndicate
mm,
universe. So he could fit a little bit better in set two. But I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see. Look, I'm not making any stipulations because I never thought we'd see Mace Windu in set one, and here he is. Right? He has crashed the party. But I think this fallen lightsaber is awesome. I think the hyperspace version of this is going to look really sick.
oh yeah,
Just based on the art that we're seeing it already. Um, yeah, I'm in. I'm in on this. This is going to be a great rare. I'll take one of each. So let's do it.
yeah,
And speaking of villainy and aggression, we did see another leader in that slot. And we this is IG-88. So now conceivably we have all the aggression villainy leaders that we're going to see in set one of Star Wars Unlimited. Because we have Vader, the starter one, we have a Grand Inquisitor, and now IG-88 arrives as the common aggression villainy leader. He has an action where if you exhaust him, you can attack with a unit, and if you control more units than the defending player, the attacker gets +1/+0 for this attack, which seems like a pretty solid ability off the rip if you're in aggro because you are trying to keep pace. And the flip side of that is IG-88 is also trying to go wide because of this ability. So speeding yourself up with this ability feels pretty decent.
yeah. The +1 on its own is not super impactful, but in an aggression deck where you're really trying to burn down your opponent as quickly as possible, I think it fits the bill.
Yeah, and I think the +1 adds up. I think in some early experimentation with Director Krennic, that +1 can do some things. So IG-88 deploys on 5, and for those 5 resources, you're getting a 5/4 ground leader unit, which is interesting. He is an underworld droid bounty hunter, and he has a different ability on his unit side, which is that each other friendly unit gains raid 1, which again is the +1 when attacking. So 5/4 for 5, not incredible, but being able to give all your units raid, this is something you're going to want to keep on the board for a bit.
Yeah, I think the raid one. So this side of the card to me is a lot stronger than the base side. I just think being able to, especially if you are trying to take advantage of his base action and spread out, this raid one is gonna definitely gonna hit. Because even though he's only got the 4 HP, that raid one could potentially be 2, 3, 4 extra damage around, and that's huge. So really like this ability. On the flip side, he's a little fragile.
He's gonna be quite squishy, but I don't think if you can get a couple attacks off of with him before he goes away, I think you'll be fine just sort of settling back into that tempo that you get with his other side. So interesting to see where he goes. He's definitely a lot more accessible in a limited format than the Grand Inquisitor. So I think that also fits sort of the common
Yeah,
leaders
that's a good
versus
point.
rare leaders. Common leaders obviously more designed for seal and draft. And speaking of rare leaders, just like we don't necessarily need to talk about Bruno, we definitely do need to talk about Han Solo. Han Solo was the other card that was revealed this weekend during Spiel that we are going to discuss here. Han Solo, rare leader for cunning and heroism. Now, this Han Solo has an interesting couple actions here. So, the leader side has an action where you exhaust Han Solo to put a card from your hand into play as a resource and ready it. At the start of the next action phase, you defeat a resource you control. So let's talk about that in depth for a second here, Corbin. You start the game, you have 6 cards in your hand. You put 2 down to start, as your starting resources, and now you have 4. Okay? Assuming that you play a card and use Han's ability exactly once each round, you are going to run out of cards by round 3. And that is before Han Solo comes out, because he has an epic action at 6 resources as opposed to 5, which is where you would get on round 3 with using his ability each round. And not only that, but 3 of those resources are going to be defeated. So you will still have the requisite amount at the end of your turn, or the end of your round. It's just going to allow you to, yes, play more expensive cards faster, but also run out of cards faster. So, with that in mind, how do you evaluate this side of Han Solo?
I still think it could potentially be very strong. Anytime you're messing around with resource curves, especially early in the game, that's definitely something I'm going to be interested in. So, yes, you have the potential of emptying your hand a lot quicker. And Han deploys at what, Kevin? What's his epic action?
Han deploys at 6.
6. So you may potentially get there. No, you wouldn't get there in those 3 turns. You'd have to get to turn 4. But I think what you could potentially flood the board with ahead of that is, you're going to outrace your opponent potentially in those first few rounds. And I think there's value in that. So for me, this is a card I'm definitely going to be looking at very closely because, if you can ramp up, especially using cards that are in your hand that don't really have another use or don't fit your plans for that early game strategy, could be very beneficial.
And look, if you are flooding the board with these extra resources, that's more cards coming out of your hand. So I think regardless of anything, Han Solo needs draw. Like, you need to be able to draw cards with Han Solo. So you're going to need to be able to use things, like Yoda, for example. When Yoda's defeated, you can draw a card. I think
so. You'd have to run blue with them. You have to run vigilance.
Well, we haven't seen the full card pool yet, right? There's a world in which you could run command, and just play prepare for takeoff, get 2 vehicles into your hand, and then just use those as fodder for this ability. You know what I mean? So there's ways to do it. There will probably be more draw cards that are coming. Han with Ezra feels really good because you're almost getting an extra card off the top of your deck potentially if you can afford it. When Ezra completes an attack. But he's definitely going to need a way to refill his hand, because otherwise you're in top deck mode for after the first 3 rounds of the game at a minimum.
Yeah.
So that's
R2 and 3PO can potentially help with that too. I mean, there's definitely ways to kind of account for it, and you'll have to in your deck. But yeah, I think the trade-off of getting out in front so much quicker than your opponent could very well be worth it.
Well, and in a magical Christmas Land scenario, Han Solo can play R2 and 3PO in the same first round. So you can put that online immediately. Which, would be great if you drew both of those in your opening hand. So,
and I think they're both just heroism, right? They don't have a second.
That is correct.
Faction, so he doesn't have to run them. He can run those with any color. Yeah,
absolutely.
Interesting.
So, and then Han has the other side, the unit side, which again at 6 he deploys. He only has the underworld tag, which I find very interesting. But at 6 you're getting a 4/6, and on attack. Instead of this coming from your hand now, you put the top card of your deck into play as a resource and ready it. At the start of the next action phase, once again, defeat a resource you control. This is obviously better, I think, because you're not depleting your hand. Now, could you be missing out on stuff? Sure, but you're going to be missing out on stuff anyway when you're using his from hand ability. So getting him out in round 4 potentially is going to feel pretty good, because now you're going to be able to switch and make sure that you're depleting your deck rather than your hand. Again, you're just going to have to be okay with sometimes losing out on a card that you might want. But resource economy, as we've seen already with Boba Fett, feels really good in Star Wars Unlimited. So I have to imagine Han's going to have some value. It's just going to be finding that balance of making sure that you're not just relying on a 2-card top deck every time you go to the well at the end of a round.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for me. I like the Boba Fett comparison because it's going to be interesting to me to see what the impact is of readying resources that you already have versus putting new ones into play. And I think we'll see some of this with Command too, especially on the villain side with Super Laser and things like that. Like I'm going to be curious to see how that resource mechanic all plays out and what each kind of situation and setup looks like. Something I'll be watching closely for sure. But yeah, the deck, having it come off the deck, I think is going to be it's going to feel a little bit better just to keep your options open, and you'll just have to live with what goes under there. But you also get to choose which resource you defeat, right? So
Yes.
if there's a way to then return resources later on, at some point, maybe you have some sort of choice. I don't know. I'm probably going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but yeah, there's a lot of different play, I think, with this card, and that's why it's a rare, right? Because it's gonna give you a little bit more lines of play than you might get with something a little more basic and straightforward, and so I'm excited to use Han and kind of see what he can do.
Definitely worth noting that Boba Fett, who we've just been discussing, is one deploys 1 round earlier.
He does.
At 5, and you also, I believe, get 1 more HP with Boba Fett. So, do we feel like Boba Fett has an edge here, or Han Solo has an edge because you have a greater resource curve with Han? Like, where do you land on that argument?
I think right now, I mean, I personally think Boba Fett is one of the stronger leaders we've seen come out.
Absolutely.
So I think it's going to take some time for his mantle to be topped. But I do think that, again, when you can ramp up very, very quickly the way that it appears Han will be able to, that has some very direct applications and will inform the game state for the rest of the game. And I think that depending on what else we see available to him, that could mean a very, very quick kind of overtaking of board state, more so than a Boba Fett deck can do. So I think it's Boba Fett right now until proven otherwise, but Han is definitely going to be a challenger.
Yeah, and I was just looking up his stats, and he is a 4/7. So, if you saw me looking off to the
You're
side,
good.
I was making sure I wasn't giving incorrect information. But to further hammer your point home, and this will be the last one I make on Han Solo, because we've taken up enough of the viewers' time. There is a difference between playing a 3-cost card with Han and playing a 2-cost and a 1-cost with Boba because of the reset of resources. So that's something to keep in mind, is that
Yep.
that round 1, you can do one thing with Han and one thing with Boba. We'll see which one is stronger as we get a little closer to release date, which again, March 8th, 2024. And that's something that we are obviously very excited about. So that's going to do it. Just a quick one this time around. And I say quick, we appreciate those of you who have stuck around to give up a half hour plus of your time to listen to us talk. Again, a lot of great information came out of Spiel. We've been blessed to be able to give you our spiel on all things Star Wars Unlimited. So for those of you who continue to be subscribers despite my bad puns, thank you. It really does mean a lot. For those of you who are new and you like what you hear, please feel free to hit the subscribe button to like the videos. Again, that helps us out a lot. And there's a lot to be excited about now that we have a concrete date to be looking forward to. So out of all the things we learned this weekend, what are you most excited about? Please feel free to comment down below and share your thoughts on all the new and exciting news that came out of Spiel. Corwin, I think for me, it's March 8th. It's, you know, it's running out and cracking my first pack of Star Wars Unlimited, and finding a snowtrooper lieutenant, and that's gonna get me really excited, because, you know, until
It's
until we have a chance to potentially preview another card, snowtrooper lieutenant is our card, man, and that's what I'm excited to see.
it's near and dear to our hearts. So absolutely. I think for me, it's definitely the event structure, the different tiers of events, and the different incentives that are going to have people coming into the stores. Just really liking the way that that's all lining up. I know that I personally am going to try to take advantage of that as much as I possibly can, and that's what I can't wait for.
Totally. Well, that's going to do it for us again. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. Be sure to check us out on Twitter for all the other random musings that we have. And we're going to keep putting out videos not until and through March 8th, 2024. So for my brother Corwin, I'm Kevin, signing off.